Elevation.
Cool and Dre.
Big blunts, dope boys wanna smoke with me. Now we ride double M's through the whole city. Niggas talking down, but they always feel me. A 9-figure nigga, all I wanna talk is business. I seen a big mouth get a closed casket. Self-made, took over the whole racket. A kilo after kilo, see who moved them.
What's going on, YouTube? Hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Welcome to the Goofy Investing channel, where we talk about investing in the stock market. I'll admit this channel specializes more in low micro cap and mid cap companies. Today we're going to be talking about Planet 13. All right, this is equity that's in the cannabis sector, which is highly regulated and, for all intents and purposes, is federally legal. But if you know the laws in the United States, states do have rights and exclusivities on how they run things in their own local laws and statutes. But let's get into Planet 13. This equity has been going down. Just on the month, we're down 32%. On the 6 month, we're down 30%. On year to date, we're looking at 37%. So I'm sure Planet 13 shareholders aren't too happy about it. I am a Planet 13 shareholder. By disclosure, let's take a look at the portfolio. Looks like Planet 13 seems to be the only down position that I have right now. It's down 35%. I had a thesis and a story, which I awarded the valuation at a little over 10 grand. That story right now is currently worth 6,600-ish, okay? We're going to dissect Planet's earnings. Not their earnings, but the earnings, and we're going to dissect the whole equity as a whole and how it looks as an investment right now. But first, let's talk about some macro effect, tailwinds, headwinds, if you will. We'll pull up my Planet 13 handy dandy checklist. If you've been following the channel, I've been using this checklist as we go along. Rescheduling transaction. The DEA is pretty much going to announce something supposedly in December. We'll see what happens. There is a shift change in the United States when it comes to political leadership and power. The Republicans now hold the Senate, and they're going to hold the Senate and the presidency. All right. And so let's look at some pros and cons about what's happening from this angle of investment. When it comes to rescheduling and the 280E tax removal, I'll be transparent. I don't see it happening. Not anytime soon. There are those in the Senate Republicans that are against legalization for the flowers. So something to consider there. I consider that a tailwind, but I'm expecting these to be X's. All right. There was a recreational ballot vote in November for Florida as a state to recreationalize it. But that's not going to happen. All right. So they didn't get enough votes, even though they went over 50% in favor of legalization for recreational use. That's not going to happen because they needed 60%, and they had about 56, 57%-ish. All right. Real close, but no cigar. Safer Banking Act. There was a FAA bill that happened earlier in the year, but the Republicans shot that down and they weren't able to include that in the bill, and it didn't go through. So wishful thinking. I didn't think from the start, I did not think the Safer Banking Act would go through, to tell you the truth. All right. I don't think we're ready yet. Reaccelerated revenue growth. Yes, their last quarter and the quarter before, we experienced reaccelerated revenue growth, but I'm going to leave that as a blank so far. I'm not going to check that off just yet. I'm not ready for that. I want some more quarters of growth there. Uplisting to the NASDAQ is going to be a future, more out into the future as a projection of something to look forward to. All right, as well as the being included in the IMSO ETF for this particular stock. Now, let's look at the financials. Let's let's look at this as an investment monetarily and what the financials, tell us. Let's check their balance sheet. Balance sheet is, to me, it's not the best. Okay, they got a lot of tax expenses coming up. A lot of the MJ companies in this space started to not pay taxes ahead with their projection that 280E would come to fruition as far as being lifted. That was a mistake. So you're going to see, if not already, you're going to see a lot of these cannabis stocks go down because now they're going to owe a big tax bill. Planet, they owe a tax bill, but they don't owe back taxes. So if you look at the financial statement on the income statement, remember, this is, if you don't know so far, this is typically how it works, okay? When you look at the financial statement or the income statement of a company, this is an annualized accrual accounting, which means that all of these expenses and all of these expenses going all the way down the income statement are annualized at the company's convenience. All right, so you're not really going to get a real too much of an accurate picture of the month to month, quarter to quarter health of a company's operations via their income statement. Now, their cash flow statement, all right, the cash flow statement is a representation of your quarter to quarter expenses. How much is going out of the company? How much is going into the company? All right. Looks like when we look at a quarterly basis, the company is starting to free cash flow. There have been some free cash flow spurts here and there in past quarters, but now we're starting to see, more consecutive quarters of free cash flow. So I'm optimistic about that. We'll look at the top line of the cash flow statement, which is the net income. We still are not profitable. We're still burning cash. Now, if you look, we're not burning as much cash as we used to. September of 2023, we burned 46.3 mil. And then we went to 7.4 mil. So that's encouraging. Now, with the new tax payment coming up probably in Q1, Q2, and along with some additional expenses, balance sheet, we're not looking too healthy if I do the calculations, okay? So liquidity is going to be tight in this equity. Is the market pricing this in? Let's look at this. We'll look at my portfolio. I got some firepower here. I got a little cash position, and we're down on the Planet equity. Is it time to make a play? What are my thoughts about this? Well, I still need to build out Novitas, so that's going to be bought regardless. But how much am I planning on putting into Planet? We assess risk. When I manage risk in my portfolio, it's done in an unorthodox manner. What do I mean by that? Well, I want my risk to mean something on my terms. All right. I had another equity. I sold out. I'll post that video out on YouTube later. But Planet 13, what kind of upside? What do I assess? Well, we're skirting the edges of risk. This is when it comes to illiquidity. And getting to the finish line to profitability, I believe we're skirting the edges of danger, guts and danger with Planet. We'll go to their earnings, we'll look at their estimates, and mind you, I will say that there's only one analyst covering the equity, and he hasn't really been doing that good of a job. He's been pretty much off on a lot of the estimates. But nevertheless, we're headed in the right direction. We're projected to be profitable next year. 2025, analysts projecting 50% revenue growth. Who knows? Maybe they do 40%. If we get elongated tailwind, maybe it goes up more. How can we gauge this? Well, just because lawmakers on the political side are against the legalization, our goal is to combat illegalization. This is the gray area, all right? This is what gives us an edge in investing when we look at the gray area that the analysts don't really consider, what the other investors don't consider, and as a totality, what the market doesn't consider, all right? So this is what I'm coming up with. Well, we know Trump's going to be the president, okay? And T-Man's stance on the drug industry in Mexico is he's against it. So he's thinking about part of his campaign plan is to have a war on the cartels in Mexico. If if the U.S. government and how do you say the power of capitalism starts kicking in, this will disrupt the cartel industry. Okay. So let's look at the cartel industry. How much are they pulling in? Well, it's estimated that they're pulling in 500 bill a year, half a trillion a year in their drug market. Now, um, that's going to be disrupted with this war. You're going to have tighter borders where the illegal trade will have trouble getting through. You'll also have disruption to a lot of their operations. Their leadership's going to be taking a hit. And overall, the demand should shift to legalized product. Okay. Now, this is something that I'm considering as a tailwind with Planet in my investment thesis. Let's look at the projected U.S. legal base of this industry. All right, we're looking like we're at 38 billion. Okay, this is retail sales of recreational and combined medical use. So we're gonna not growing as fast as I'd like, but that doesn't necessarily mean this chart is right. But if it is right, Planet's not really doing. We're not even at 1 billion, so we're still skirting the lines of breaking that 100 million mark. Plenty to be taken as there's bigger players in this industry. From a medical use standpoint, it's growing, maybe not as fast, but consistently. Planet did acquire a bunch of dispensaries for medical use in Florida, and that's how they're seeing this revenue growth in these quarters that they've had. Now, what can we be looking at? So what am I worried about? All right. Well, I think dilutive capital raises coming for Planet because their balance sheet is going to take a hit. Shares outstanding will increase. Is this dilutive effort or dilutive event priced in along with a more tougher economic environment for the demand of the product? I think some of it is priced in, a good grip, maybe one or the other is priced in. You can't tell. All right. Sometimes you really can't tell when you're dealing with these micro caps. All right. So I think the risk is worth it for the upside that this equity can provide in the long term. With the depressed valuation multiple, sector median on a price to sales is a little under 4 on the forward sales and the trailing sales. We're looking at a 1 on our price to sales, or a little under a 1 on our forward, or a little over 1 on the forward and a little under 1 on the trailing. So this could revert back to a mean if this equity gets in a good standing and gets a good narrative. What is a narrative in the stock market? Well, it's a story thesis that overshadows the particular equity, whether it's negative or positive. Okay, we saw SoFi come through with for a long time had a negative narrative surrounding their equity, which suppressed the valuation long term, which is why you saw years of flatness. All right, same idea with Planet. Okay, the narrative is they're not profitable. It's a highly regulated sector. They're nowhere near legalization on a federal level. Investor capital and institutional rules prohibit the investment dollars coming into equities like this. And the lack of analyst coverage, research capability, and so forth, or interest thereof, has created an opportunity for grassroots investors like myself that are on a quest for growth, to come in and realize edge to contribute to their gains of growth. So it's not going to be easy. Nothing worth having is easy, okay? So share count, I'm looking at 16,500. Cost basis 62 cents a share. It's just a matter of, do I want to amp this to 20,000 shares, 25,000 shares, 30,000 shares? I want a piece of this industry, an elongated growth sector, which I can look back, or go forward 10 years, 15 years, and multi-bag significantly. And I'm not just talking about 2, 3x. I'm talking your 50, 100x type of investment proposition in this equity. All right, and in fact, a lot of the positions in my portfolio. So I'm here for the bag, all right, and not the bad bag where I'm holding it, but the good bag, all right. I tell you what, I took a lot of L's, had some W's, and I'm trying to get my M's, all right. And this is the way I can see that I'm going to be able to get it, all right. So when I up this and buy the dip, I'm going in knowing full-heartedly or full knowledge that this can go to zero. This is very risky investing. I'm willing to take the risk, but we're skirting on the edge of guts and danger at these levels when I mean the timeline of their cash burn and profitability and issuance of a dilutive event. All right. So I might average in, we'll see. We'll see what opportunities arise. So that's my take on Planet. I know there's a lot to cover there, but if you're getting value, consider hitting up my Patreon. All right, $5 a month, you get to be with like-minded investors, more direct access to me. You get access to the Hidden Gem collection, where I'm always posting instructionals and giving more in-depth knowledge. You're only getting a piece of it on YouTube. All right. As most of it is, the full package is going to be on this Patreon. So if you like my channel and, you want to show me support and get value in your own development, consider subscribing to that. With that being said, I hope you all are enjoying your holidays and have a good one.